What is the comparable expression of spousal love in the celibate vocation? If we have the marital union in the sacrament of marriage, and the Pope is saying, and I'm up here saying, that celibacy is also a living out of the spousal meaning of the body, what is the comparable expression? Well, let's first look at priestly celibacy. Where does the priest consummate his marriage? In the Eucharist. In the Eucharist. If we follow this line of thinking out, we will understand why only a man can be a priest. Where does a man go to train to be a priest? Seminary. What is he learning to do in the seminary? Where do we get that word seminary? He's learning how to inseminate. Who is he learning to inseminate? The church. With his spiritual seed. Only a man can inseminate. If the Eucharist is the consummation of a marriage, then we need a bridegroom and we need a bride. This is where the sexual difference matters, precisely in the call to Holy Communion. This is where difference affords communion and new life. Now, what's something a woman can do that a man simply cannot do? What? Give birth. I cannot give birth. It's impossible. I'm a man. It's impossible. Okay, this is something I simply cannot do. Now, I might be mad about that because this is a profound privilege granted to the female sex. God didn't grant me this privilege. Now, if I got really mad about it, I might even start a campaign. Men for pregnant men. I could petition the Pope to allow me to be pregnant. And what would the Pope tell me? He would say, I cannot change the design of the Creator. What's at least one thing a man can do that a woman cannot do? Impregnate. It's impossible. Is there any woman in here who ever got a woman pregnant? It is impossible for a woman to inseminate. It is impossible for a woman to give up her body in such a way that she impregnates another. It's impossible. This is where the sexual difference matters. Now, when a woman says, I can be a doctor, I can be a lawyer, I can be a politician, I can be an astronaut, she's right. She can. There's nothing in femininity that keeps her from that. But here's the point. Priesthood is not a career choice. Priesthood is spiritual fatherhood. And here's where the sexual difference matters. For a woman to attempt to confer the Eucharist, the relationship is now bride to bride. And there is no possibility of Holy Communion. And there's no possibility of new life. The spousal mystery carries the whole way through the Christian mystery. Because Christ is the bridegroom giving up his body for his bride. Now, what about the bride? I'm talking about how a celibate priest is consummating a mystical marriage. How about the bride? How does a celibate woman enter into this consummation? Any thoughts? Let's look to Teresa of Avila for a moment. Have you ever seen the statue by Bernini of Teresa of Avila in Ecstasy? Anybody ever seen this in Rome? It is scandalous to those who do not understand what is going on. The statue captures her in a moment of ecstasy, in experiencing what the mystics call spousal union, spousal prayer, a mystical spousal union with God. I'll tell a little story here. There is a modern day mystic, a Carmelite nun, who was giving a lecture on this experience of spousal ecstasy with God. And a secular psychologist came up to her afterwards and said, "You are sick." He said, "What you really want is sex, but you're disguising it with all this prayer, mystical, spousal union with God stuff. And she very calmly but very firmly responded, "Oh no, I beg to differ. What the world really wants is spousal union with God, but it's disguising it with all this sex." Do you see how in that very pointed statement, she's flipping the Google paradigm around? You following me? What people are really looking for when they go to sex, what the woman at the well was really looking for when she was in bed with all those men, she was really looking for Christ the bridegroom. Why was Christ so compassionate with sexual sinners, especially women? Could it be because he knew they were looking for him?